Hello, hello, hello. It's your girl Selena, and this is another episode of the Hot Girls Healing Podcast. So if you don't know, now you know. But you probably know, right? Because you had to intentionally choose this. So it's another episode. It's another season because we in season 3, and I'm personally still feeling that newness, the energy, the freshness. I'm filming this as we are transitioning from fall to winter, so there's still a little snap in the air, but the sun is out today, and we are all noticing it. Everybody is noticing the sun. It's it's this little human thing that we're doing, and it's super cute. So yes, we're fresh, we're new. It's season 3. Today, I'm joined by the lovely Aliya, and we are talking about how the journey never ends. You already know what I mean by that, but I will expand. Before I do that, I would love to have Aliya introduce herself to the beautiful healing community here, and please let them know everything they need to know about you before we go into this conversation.
Absolutely. What a lovely, vibey introduction. Thank you so much, Selena, for having me on the show, and congratulations on season 3. That's incredible. Podcaster to podcaster, it's a beautiful thing, and I love what you're doing with the show. So, hello, healing community. Hello, Hot Girls Healing Podcast. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me again, Selena. My name is Aliya Brown, and I am so excited to be joining Selena today. So, I am also a podcaster. I host the Prolific Hub podcast, and that podcast is all about creativity, purpose, and alignment, which Selena and I have been vibing on alignment a lot, and we'll talk about that more. And on top of that, I am also a communications and project management consultant. So I work with a lot of nonprofits and other small businesses to support them with program and project management if they're bringing new projects online or have existing ones that they need support with, or with communication strategy. I support those organizations in that capacity. So I'm really excited to be here and to talk with you more.
Yes. And from that just brief introduction, you said so much, and it really shows me already she know a journey. She has dealt with the journey. She has heard the story many times. And I think when I want to get into any conversation, I always want to start with, what does that even mean to you? What does the journey mean? For me, when I'm thinking about the journey, I'm thinking about making myself better. And that is the journey that never ends for me. That journey of reflection, that journey of, what am I needing right now? And what am I needing to release right
now? Yeah, that's beautiful. I think also it's similar to me and for me. I think that we call it a journey for a reason, and we say it doesn't end for a reason. I don't believe in the concept of ever saying that you're fully healed. I don't think that's true. I don't think that exists. I think it's a constant journey. There will always be reminders of things. There will always be experiences that might trigger certain memories. There will always be things that you feel like you've healed or processed or worked through, and then a year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, something happens and it takes you back to that moment. I think the beauty of a healing journey and the beauty of healing is that we learn and we grow. We have the capacity to do things differently. So maybe we responded to something in a certain way once upon a time, and throughout the course of our healing journey, we've learned alternatives to doing better when certain things arise. And I've been through that a lot in my personal life, and I'm not perfect. I'll still have my moments now. That's why it's a healing journey. I give myself the grace to be human, to experience the range of my emotions, but to also recognize when I'm doing old things and doing old habits that don't serve me anymore or the people around me. And it gives me an opportunity to recognize that and pivot and do something different this time. So that's what it means to me.
Yes. I feel like that is the point of the journey, right? Change.
Yes.
It's not even really a journey if nothing changes. There's no story. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I feel like a lot of the time people get scared of change or
Mhm.
of doing something different. And that's why I love what you're saying about exploring, like
Mhm.
be open. For me, I'm at the point where I'm willing to change something, even if it is working for me. What
Mhm.
if something could work even better? You know
Yes.
what I mean? So I think that sometimes we can get caught up when it comes to the journey and being like, well, I don't want to always be like looking for problems in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to always be thinking that the grass has to be greener on this other side. So to be a satisfied person, that means I have to be okay what's happening in my life. And
Mhm.
like I need to dig, stand 10 toes down on the fact that I'm okay.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And that was definitely me for a long time
Yeah.
because like how could I be getting the job if things aren't fine?
Mhm.
How could I be making the money? That doesn't even make any sense. Clearly I'm doing things right.
Mhm.
So there doesn't need to be any changes here.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I was just like, all right, well, shit, I'm gonna see, you know, let me
Yeah.
just see if something could be better than
Yeah.
this satisfactory situation that I already have where like I'm fine. I'm not super
Mhm.
happy. I'm not, I'm not even really content in most moments,
Mhm.
but I'm fine. So
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
good enough.
Yeah, and it's so easy to get stuck in that place, I feel like. And I love what you're describing about change. I feel like change is one of the few things in this life that we are absolutely promised as people. Things are going to change whether we want them to or not. It's about our adaptability and how we can navigate that. But something that I'm also thinking about while you were speaking, you're sharing the example in your own experience of just kind of being like, what can change? Like, I might not be completely satisfied right now, but like, what could be different? What do I have to lose? Kind of thing. And it
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of an activity I had done earlier in the year. It was like Justin Michael Williams did a manifestation New Year's Eve virtual gathering. And I
Mm-hmm.
tuned in with like hundreds of people all over the world. It was a really beautiful event. And one of the activities in the event is thinking about change, but in the sense of visualizing and imagining the life that you desire. And every time we would maybe write down something we want for ourselves, he would challenge us to think bigger. Like,
Mm-hmm.
challenge yourself to imagine bigger, challenge yourself to expand. Remind yourself that you deserve these things, like, and it was such
Yeah.
a powerful activity for me because I already felt like I was writing certain things down that were like big, and it almost stressed me out
Yeah.
to even think bigger and imagine bigger. But then I had to sit back and be like, I can do this. Like, maybe I'm limited to some degree by only the examples I've seen, either in my personal life or out in culture, society,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But I can imagine something different for myself. And if I can imagine it and if I can visualize it, that means there are some things in my life that I could absolutely change right now to get there. Um,
Yeah.
and I think the first step is like overcoming that mental hurdle.
And
And then,
it is
yeah.
because when you're saying exercise, yes, exercise,
Hmm.
practice, like
Hmm.
this. Oh man,
Hmm.
retraining your mind. It takes
Oh,
energy, y'all. Like when
yes.
I'm telling you, I don't just expect you to be like, okay, and then just go
Hmm.
ahead and the next day you're thinking completely differently.
Yeah.
Like it is a practice. It was hard for me because that is a kind of a manifestation tool that I use.
Hmm. Yeah.
But it was hard for me to imagine a scenario and not imagine automatically go to the worst case or at
Yeah.
least a couple of things
Oh,
that
yeah.
that are
Yeah.
bad that could happen.
Yeah.
Retraining my brain to then be like, actually, what is the best case scenario for whatever it
Hmm.
is that you're thinking about?
Hmm.
That is a retrain. That is a practice that
Hmm.
I'm still retraining my brain with. I've now gotten to the point where I can recognize it quicker, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
putting intentionality into this area.
Yeah.
But I still have to be like, actually, no, I'm going to walk you back and we're actually going to think about the reverse of whatever that just was because
Yeah.
I'm not allowing it,
Yeah.
And so it's certainly a practice and something that takes time.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm also thinking about the fact that I've heard countless like experts in their field, the neuroscientists, the psychologists, all kinds of people remind us that our brains love predictability. Our brains want to keep us to the safe to the point where it's almost detrimental to our growth sometimes, because new things are horrendously scary to our brains, and it's up to us to like remind ourselves that we're safe, that we can
Mm-hmm.
change, that we could do things anew, and that it's possible and it's okay. And I love what you talked about in terms of like thinking about best case scenario, like something I've been introduced to recently by the Balanced Black Girl podcast is best case
Mm.
scenario journaling. The host of that podcast talks about that a lot. Like, since our brains love to go to what's the worst thing that can happen, why not challenge ourselves while we're journaling and write out the best case scenario? What's the best thing possible that can happen?
Yeah.
And I love that. And I've been trying to put that into practice more for myself too, especially for things I get nervous about or I feel like, concerned it might not go in the best way. So it all takes effort to try to do something different. And
Yes. And I
yeah.
love what you said about the bigger part too, how the
Mhm.
person, in the exercise was like, ask for more, because
Yes.
for real, that is something that we have to train ourselves to. I remember when I
Mhm.
felt called to just get better at accepting service, get
Yeah.
better at being comfortable with someone serving you,
Yes.
like, and not just always being the person who serves others. Because I'm
Mhm.
very comfortable there. Look, that was what I was raised to do, is be of
Mhm.
service. So
Yeah.
accepting service was different, and
Mhm.
thinking bigger in what I deserve. Whoo, like that was giving me sweaty palms at a certain
Mhm.
point to eat,
Mhm.
like the greed, the shame, like,
Mhm.
those are the things that I was battling back in the day. But it is not
Yeah.
greedy to
Yeah.
want bigger and better for yourself.
Oh, absolutely not.
You know what I mean? So whatever level you have to start at to challenge these thoughts,
Mhm.
start there.
Yeah.
You know where you are. Start there and start, giving yourself more grace
Yes.
and accepting that you deserve good things,
Yeah.
which can seem very basic, but that's power.
Yeah.
Accepting that you deserve good things is very powerful.
It is. I I don't remember where I saw a quote earlier today, I think on social media, and it was something along the lines of people who give the most love sometimes have the hardest time receiving it. And
Mm.
I feel like that's true when it comes to like being of service to others and all kinds of different things. Like sometimes we struggle with like receiving it back. Like we're so used to pouring out and pouring into everybody else that it's almost like, oh, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? If somebody tries to pour into us, and like combating that as much as we can is so important, just in order to fill up our own cups and be able to pour back into others and be able to receive the very thing we're giving. Like it's so important. It really is.
Yeah. And you know, the more you follow your journey, the more you
Hmm.
acknowledge its never ending
Yeah.
nature, the
Yeah.
more you see that you are going to find yourself in a place where it's just going to come to you. The next thing that you need to work on yourself, it's just going
Hmm.
to flow on right to you in a way that's gentle. It's
Yeah.
not going to be shame filled. It's not going to be a way that you're not good enough. It's actually an
Hmm.
opening, a
Hmm.
blooming. This is how you can be even more who you are. This
Yes.
is how you
Exactly.
can curate experiences for yourself, because that was the thing that I was doing too. I
Hmm.
found that life comes at you fast.
It
It
does.
can really feel like things are just being thrown at you constantly and you're just
Hmm.
tumbling. Like I felt like I
Hmm.
was just tumbling all the time and I couldn't
Yeah.
grasp anything.
Yeah.
And when I started to get into breath work and acknowledge
Hmm.
that I had anxiety,
Hmm.
so there's balance in Western and Eastern practices.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I also found that in these moments of creating stillness for
Hmm.
myself,
Hmm.
I can then get out of this tumble effect and I can be intentional about the experiences that I'm having.
Hmm.
Then things aren't just being hurled at me. I'm choosing,
Yeah.
I'm curating,
Yeah.
I'm picking, it's abundant, it's coming to me. And that's
Yeah.
how the healing can be too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I also feel like where I am right now in my personal healing journey is healing is reminding me to be a little bit more selfish with how I take care of myself. And I want to like describe that well. But I say that to say that I, from the moment I get up to the moment I go to bed, will be focused on other people's needs, whether it be work, whether it be personal, everything else. And I realized that that was taking away time from some of my personal self care that I needed to do. Like I was putting everything I needed to do for myself on the back burner. Everything that kept me balanced on the back burner because I was so focused on everything else. And it got to a point where I just felt completely depleted. And the smallest, slightest thing would like send me into an emotional spiral.
Mm.
And now I'm back in a place where I'm like, okay, if I can't take an hour, let me at least give myself this 5 minutes, this 10 minutes, this 15 minutes to make sure I sit down and do my meditation. Let me sit down and be still with myself for a minute. If I don't feel like doing that one day, let me sit down and journal and write out my thoughts for a minute. Like, let me take this moment to let me put in 10 to 15 minutes to get this quick workout in. Let me do something for myself to take care of myself, because if I don't do it, like I will be so lost. And I think part of my healing season right now in this moment is definitely being a little bit more selfish with how I'm prioritizing myself and taking care of myself and making sure I'm kicking off my day with like what I need to be centered and grounded so that I can show up for myself for the rest of the day and also show up for others. Yeah.
Being consistently selfish, and selfish used to be like a bad word for me. Like selfish was a tool used against me for a long time to keep me people pleasing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she's gonna be selfish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Consistently
Yeah.
on my journey, right? Because that is so needed to show up as the person that you want to be.
Yes.
I do not do resentment. And in our culture, hidden resentments in your closest relationships, is that not the name of the game half the
Wow.
time?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because I don't do resentment in my relationships, I have to show up authentically.
Yeah.
I have to show up in my true nature. And to do that, I have to consistently put certain things into myself. I have to be
Yeah.
aligning myself with consistent practices. Where you said spending those 10 minutes, I used to work out an hour whenever I could because I only wanted to work out for an hour.
Yeah.
And I said, girl, you can't be consistent with this hour. What can you be consistent with?
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Wow.
I've been working out consistently for 10 minutes, 5 days a week for about 2 years now.
Wow.
When I finally let go of it needing to be an hour long, which I could not do consistently, and pared it all the way back to something that I could do consistently. When they say consistency is key.
It is in so many ways for so many things, especially for yourself personally. And something you just said sparked a thought in me. You saying like you were very committed to working out an hour a day, and then you had to learn to be flexible and do what you could. And now you've been super consistent doing at least 10 minutes or doing your 10 minutes 5 days a week for the last couple of years. And I was talking to someone about something else the other day, and they had to like level with me about a situation. And they said to me, you know, some people are just really committed to the stories that they tell about themselves. And I was just like, you know, that's so true. It made me think about how I was and wasn't showing up for myself. If I'm constantly saying things about myself that are counter to what I'm trying to do, like, oh, I don't have the time to do this, or my needs don't matter right now, or, you know, I want to reach this certain goal, but I'm not putting in the action or the words or the affirmation or the steps to get there, then I'm committed to a story that is not actually true about myself. If I want to tell the truth, if I want to commit to a new story, I have to change and do things a little bit differently. And I think that's so important. Like on this journey, it's not going to be one way all the time. We're going to have to evolve and learn and adapt and do different things in different seasons. And that's okay. It's
Yes.
okay, you know?
Ooh, huge. Trust comes in a lot with that.
Oh, yeah.
Trusting yourself and trusting your journey.
Mm-hmm.
I have an affirmation for that.
Wow.
I remind myself that I have enough time to do everything that I want and need to do.
Yeah.
And I remind
I
myself
love
of that.
Mhm.
I remind myself that every time I need to, because this time thing that we are committed to in the society that we live in
Mhm.
will have you choked up
Yep.
and feeling like you do not have time to dream. You don't have time to have an imagination. You don't
Right.
got time to care about yourself or
Yep.
be in community.
Yep.
But you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's so
Yeah.
true.
Look, we got time for whatever we want.
I agree.
And that's, I think, a part of being honest with ourselves on this journey, which can
Mhm.
also be hard.
Mhm.
Telling the truth used to get me in trouble. So
Mm.
so if
Mm.
you got to start with telling yourself the truth,
Yes.
then I think that's worth it.
Yes. Definitely start there. Definitely start there first, because if you start trying to tell other people about themselves,
Ooh, yeah.
that might be a different beast. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people need to hear it, but sometimes everybody's not ready to receive it. So definitely start with yourself. But it's so true. It really is. And I love that affirmation. I think the flip side of that, sometimes we hear, especially in like work culture, nonprofit culture, and beyond, is like the work will always be there, the work will be there tomorrow. Like, and I think that's true too for our personal lives and our healing journeys. Like the work of healing is always going to be there. Like it might get a little easier and a little lighter, but it's not going to end. You have to continue to show up for yourself and be committed to yourself and be honest with yourself and tell the truth with yourself and adapt as you need to.
I'm hearing this already, but we got to allow ourselves to be imperfect and love ourselves right
Mhm.
now while we're not the perfect version that we want to be. We have
Yeah.
to see this version as worthy,
Yeah.
and that can be hard. I
Yeah.
used to be very mean to myself,
Mhm.
because I was like, bitch, get there so that we can start being friends.
Mm. Mm.
But the whole time, I was never going to get there without being friends with myself.
Yeah.
I was never going to get there without
Yeah.
loving myself.
Yeah.
Only love can get you there.
Yeah. That's powerful. And I think sometimes two things just came up for me. Two important things, I think. Sometimes we will hear the messaging of like, the positive self-talk, and like I know it's important, but sometimes when the voice that's in your head has not always been positive or kind, wherever that comes from, whether that's conditioning from how you grew up, whether that's your environment, like whatever it is, sometimes it's not always that easy to retrain that voice in your head and that part of your brain, but it's so necessary to do it because the world is hard and harsh enough in many ways. Like you should not be harsh with yourself in your vessel in home with yourself. It's so important to speak to yourself more kindly. But the other thing that comes up for me too is I'm thinking about, oh no, I just lost my train of thought. The other thing that
It's
comes
coming.
up, yeah, the other thing that comes up for me too, I think is so important. Oh, I was thinking about this earlier today, just randomly, because I've heard different folks talk about imposter syndrome. Some people are like, I don't know her. Other people are like, I struggle with this every day. Um, and I think it has a lot to do with the messaging and our reality, like this society that we live in, especially as Black people, Black femmes, Black queer people, whatever. Black people in this country, in the United States, and I'm sure other people in the world can relate too. is that we get the messaging from a young age that we have to work twice as hard, we have to be twice as good. Like we this is so ingrained in us, and I think it bleeds from the professional to the personal. So then so many times and so often we struggle with these ideas around perfection and being twice as good, not just with work, but in our personal lives. And if we feel like we fall short of that personally, like within ourselves, then it becomes another mental hurdle. Then it becomes another struggle. And I think it's so important too to like take a step back from that and show ourselves a little bit more grace in that capacity, because otherwise, like, we'll fall every time. Like, we have to be kinder to ourselves. We have to be comfortable with being imperfect. We will not be perfect all the times. We are human beings. We are imperfect beings. So I think it's always important to be a little less harsh with ourselves and
Yes.
to just think about the messaging we receive and not, you know.
Yeah. No, imposter syndrome is such a wild one because we also sometimes we experience things differently. Like I
Oh
thought imposter syndrome was when you don't think you deserve the position that you're in, because that's what
yeah.
everyone had always said. And I'm like,
Mhm.
no, I know I deserve the position.
Mhm.
However, I will get in my head sometimes thinking that everyone else thinks that I don't deserve this position
Oh
because I'm
yeah.
too this, too that. That is
Yeah.
also imposter
Yes.
syndrome, y'all.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So it's not just one thing. You can
Mhm.
experience something in a way that is the lesser popular way of
Mhm.
experiencing it, and
Yeah.
it's still a valid way to be experiencing that thing. It looks different for us sometimes. We don't always have the typical experience, and it can look like, you know, you knowing that you belong there, but you also getting in your head about expecting other people to not expect you to belong there, which may or may not be real and happening. But I think that internalization and the part where you get in your head is where it becomes imposter syndrome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. I think people feel it different ways, and I feel like it really just matters that you understand that you are worthy and you are deserving. So even if you know you are in a certain position or whatever the case, and you're worried about maybe other people around you not understanding that or agreeing,
Mhm.
that's one thing. But recognizing that honestly, we someone said to me the other day, like, nobody else ever, especially us, should be thinking about imposter syndrome, because look at this administration, okay? There are a bunch of people who are actually unqualified
Totally.
doing a bunch of things, so
Yeah,
we're
I
good.
mean, it really shouldn't be an issue for us, but I be hearing it, and
Mhm.
I definitely have experienced the part where I can tell that someone's like, oh, let me provide a little bit of context. I entered the nonprofit sector in positions of leadership at
Mhm.
23 years old. I was
Mhm.
often the youngest person in the room, the only
Mhm.
Black person in the room, the person in the room telling the truth. And these are things that can often make you, make people want to look at you in a way that invalidates you.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
will also say in my journey, I have found that validation from me is most important. So
Yeah.
please validate your experiences to
Mhm.
yourself.
Yeah.
Even if you know that, you're going to move beyond that moment, and you are, that's
Mhm.
not going to stop you. But acknowledge that you were wronged in that moment. And I think
Yeah.
that happens a lot of the time for people in our community.
Oh
We are
yeah.
expected to just brush it off, not let it bother us, don't vent about it, don't talk about it, cuz duh, right?
Mhm.
Cuz of course that happened. But
Yeah.
we don't stand in the injustice. We don't allow space for each other to be like, yeah, and that should have never happened to you. And it should
Mhm.
have never happened before or the other time, or to your
Mhm.
grandpa or to your grandma or to your great
Mhm.
grandma. It should have never
Yeah.
happened, period.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful. And I firmly relate to entering the nonprofit sector young and not really sugarcoating who I was or my opinions or what I thought, and definitely dealt with many microaggressions and all kinds of stuff that wasn't happening to anyone else who was just as
Hmm.
opinionated, or um and I love what you said about validating yourself, because I would have moments and I would like text a friend and be like, am I reading this situation wrong? Like, am I
Mhm.
like just kind of confused by the experience? Like, is this really happening? Um, and yeah, we learn from those things and we grow and we learn how to navigate these spaces as we need to navigate them. So
Yeah, and it can definitely be a journey of figuring out how to get what you want still
yeah,
while being true to yourself.
yeah,
It's a balance, and you
yeah,
figure out how much of the game you're willing to play while knowing whole time this all has to be abolished.
yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah,
it's a delicate game, and we're all playing it together. So,
yeah,
find your community,
yeah.
because we need community on this journey. Find
Yes.
the people that see you and that you are
Mhm,
able to see, and people that you can hold space for and who hold space for you, because it's
mhm,
give and take. But I think that's important on this journey too, acknowledging that community and
mhm.
being in community and how you show up in community. That matters as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah, and
love
those
that.
people should, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I love that. And I think part of the healing era that I'm in too is I kind of made a commitment to myself in 2023 that I wanted to bring like new friendships, new relationships into my life and kind of cater to that area because I have incredible best friends, some that I've had since like first grade, high
Oh,
school, like all kinds of things. But I was also like I have the capacity for more love and more friendships in my life, and I was like I want to really call in more friendships that I feel like are aligned with this season of my life, um, and I was very intentional about that. I went to different community events. I went to different retreats. Like I was very intentional about it. And I've actually recently made a new friend that I've been cultivating that friendship and we're learning more about each other and we're growing and that's been really really beautiful. I actually celebrated her birthday with her last night. That was really nice.
oh.
And but what she does is she does community care sessions
Mm.
in New York. And it's really, really lovely. Like, I went to one of her first events last summer, and it was a community care session where we got to like paint some vases together and then take flowers and make our own arrangements. And the event was called like You Deserve Your Flowers, Sis. So we literally gave ourselves flowers and it was beautiful. And she's had many events like that since. And when we talk about community and when we talk about community care, there are a lot of ways to do that and show up in that.
Mhm.
But I think it's about, seeking out what feels aligned for you or creating something in a
Mhm.
space where you don't feel like it exists right now, but that you can make a difference and finding your people and catering to those relationships and those friendships. So, yeah, it's something that came to mind when you're talking about community.
So real. Oh my God, there's so much alignment. Oh, I love community care. Like,
Hmm.
I love community care events. Every city needs to have like city funded community care events where
Yes.
it's just about public health and wellness and us
Yes.
all getting together and just being human together. I think one of the
Hmm.
things that colonialism really stole from us was community. Even
Oh,
more so as we go into from this recession into what very much appears to be a depression,
yeah.
community is going to be even more important.
Yeah.
Showing up together is going to be even more important.
Yeah.
I was not a person who really used to like talk to my neighbors a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Since I've moved to a neighborhood that I think actually the real difference is just the who the neighbors are.
Hmm.
I've been getting to know my neighbors more. I've
Wow.
been organizing more with my friends around sustainability.
Yeah, that's
What are we gonna do?
hmm
Because we gonna have to figure something out.
hmm
And it's gonna be with the people around us. No one's coming to save us.
Yeah.
So I think realizing in this journey that we need each other,
Hmm.
holding space for that reality and moving forward with it is going to be so key to our combined liberation.
Oh, I 1000% agree. And there are so many statistics around like loneliness these days, and it was one
Mhm.
percentage before lockdown and before the start of like the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's changed drastically since then. Like a lot of people are feeling more lonely than before, and we're still feeling the effects and the aftermath of that period of time. And so many social bonds were just destroyed. People lost so many people. Um, Living situations changed. The
Mm.
economy has changed so
Mhm.
much. And we're just in a different season now. And I feel like we need to collectively think more about community and our collective and not just be as individualistic as we have been. And
Mhm.
even the simple thing of like getting to know your neighbors more. I need to do that better myself. I have several that I'll like politely say hi to, but we're not like standing outside having a long conversation all the day, like, things like that. And um it would be nice to do that more, especially the neighborhood I've been in. I've been here a very long time. But even thinking about what that looks like within your living community, like where you actually live, like
Mhm.
even beyond your friends, and
Yeah.
even talking to your friends more about what it's going to look like to hold each other and support each other through the seasons ahead. Something that I listened to recently, um, the Brown Girl Self Care Path podcast, I believe, and it's
Ooh.
about brown girl self care, self
Yeah.
care for Black women, wellness, and all that things. It's hosted by Bree Nichelle. And last summer, so summer 2024, she had done an episode with the owner of I think it's Decolonizing Parenting, and that person
Mm.
was talking about buying land in Arkansas and wanting to cultivate the land and building this community for Black single mothers. And it went from a conversation about wanting to do that because capitalism sucks and capitalism is hell. That's what the conversation was. And it went from a conversation of wanting to do it, like of that woman purchasing the land and the host of Brown Girl Self Care saying, I might think about it. I might think about joining you. To a couple episodes later being like, I made the decision. I'm going to go join my friend.
Ah.
I'm going to start this process. To several episodes later being like, by the time you all hear this episode on this podcast, I will have made the move. I sold everything and I'm moving from California to Arkansas to go cultivate this land. And I was just like, it literally gives me chills because I know everyone's reality will not be like that. It will not be that extreme. But in
Mhm.
situations where it is possible, we have to imagine something different. And in a lot of ways, that example of doing something different is getting back to basics. We started
Yeah.
with trading and bartering and cultivating land and doing all these different things. We have unfortunately divulged to the to the era and the society that we are in now. So for some
Mhm.
people, it's going to look like getting back to those kinds of basics and building those kinds of communities where people can support each other in different ways. So I think hearing that example like really stretched my imagination to like what is possible. What does community actually mean in this season, and how are different people showing up to provide examples of that and live examples of that?
Yes. And that really reminds me again of that practice theory you're talking about and thinking bigger.
Yeah.
Imagine a different society. If
Yeah.
capitalism didn't exist, what
Yeah.
society, you know what I mean? Capitalism will steal your imagination to the point where you cannot imagine it living any other way.
Mhm.
But there are
Mhm.
so many other ways that we can be living that aren't just
Mhm.
capitalism or communism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we live in a dichotomous society.
Yeah.
It's always this or that. There is
Yeah.
no other.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be other, right? Because other is not good.
Mhm.
Other is marginalized. Other doesn't get to
Mhm.
come out into the sun and play with us.
Mhm.
So think about other. Think
Mhm.
about what it could be if money didn't exist. How
Mhm.
could we live in a society where you have no money to give and you can only give, effort,
Mhm.
ideas?
Mhm.
What would you do then? What would
Mhm.
everyone do? What would
Yeah.
jobs look like? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I think we really need to start practicing that muscle, strengthening our
Mhm.
muscle of imagination and
Yeah.
reclaiming it in a way that is decolonized and that is
Yeah.
indigenous.
Yes, I love that. That's beautiful. Like literally let this era of your healing journey be reclaiming your imagination. If you feel like you can't do anything else, at least give yourself that. Like think about something different. I think that's really powerful what you said. Mhm.
Yeah, we can't be afraid to start small.
Yeah.
Like, the biggest tree, it started real small, like, so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
just start and don't be afraid of yourself, because I
Mhm.
think that's another thing that we have been taught to fear ourselves.
Mhm. Yeah.
Taught that if we don't allow society to keep us in this lines, there's no telling what we'll do. We'll be
Mhm.
free.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
And being free is good. It will bring about peace and safety and the things that we want, the things that we desire.
Mhm.
They're not being provided for us. That's why we're
Yeah.
desiring them. But
Yeah.
we're conditioned to go with the devil that we know instead of the devil we don't know.
Yeah.
Again, dichotomous.
Mhm.
Devil you know, devil you don't know. There are no other options, but in real life there are. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that option doesn't have to be a devil at all. It can be
Yeah.
anything we want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's powerful. Like even as you're talking, I'm thinking about hip hop womanist scholar Ebony Janice Moore, who's
Mm.
someone, an author, and so much more that I really admire. And I've even had her as a guest on my show, and she has a program called Dream Yourself Free. And
Mm.
it's really about rethinking how we are existing and how we are showing up as Black people, Black women, Black femmes in this world, and doing things different and imagining things differently and dreaming ourselves free, because without our imagination, without our ability to tap into the dream world, the dreamscape and our imagination, like we won't be able to find another way. So it really does start
Yes.
there. That's the first step.
Yes. And the thing about it, like, if you Black, if you're queer, if you're disabled, if
Yeah.
you're of a certain age, baby,
Yes.
start dreaming. Start
Yeah.
dreaming quick, because they are not including you in their dream. Okay.
Oh,
You
listen.
they will.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Oh, that makes me think about another brilliant woman that I admire who I've had on the show as well. Her name is Lavon Briggs, and
Mm.
she said once, she said all the time, but she also said on an episode of my show that I had her on, like, can you imagine a world where a Black, queer, disabled person feels free, and they
Mm.
can move around in a city and everything is accessible to them? When we can achieve that, then we know everyone else will thrive
Mhm.
and be okay, because there are so many aspects of our cities, employment, everything that are just not accessible, and they're not like a good fit or good structure for everybody. And I love putting it in that perspective, because when we can imagine that, then we know we will have made it.
Yes, I share. Dang, Aliya.
Dang, Salenna!
No, like, you got me over here just like, we gonna be free, like, a
Yeah.
period. These conversations are happening. It is
Yes.
written, it is said, it is done.
Yes.
Um, I'm so grateful to have had this conversation with you today. Is there anything we haven't said about the journey? Like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Put me in, coach.
I mean, the only thing that comes up for me now, and this has come up in a lot of conversations that I have, is that I do my best to live my life well. I do my best to live it in a way that I'm present, but I'm also future minded. I
Mm.
know one day, someday, it is inevitable. I will be somebody's ancestor. There are a lot of ancestors that I lean on, that walk with me, that support me, that power me up, that carry me through. So I think if we continue to live our lives well, if we continue to heal, what a powerful and masterful and brilliant generation of ancestors we will be someday. And these kinds of conversations, like being on the Hot Girls Healing podcast and knowing that someday, even beyond you and I, somebody might tap into this conversation and feel inspired by it, or feel connected to it, or feel like, dang, these are what our elders, what our ancestors were talking about in 2025. Like,
Yeah.
that is just such a powerful thing to me, and I feel such in the spirit of gratitude when I think about that, when I imagine it, when I feel it. I feel so connected to it. So this work is important. Don't ever let anybody tell you this is like just a podcast. It has so much power and so much meaning, like even beyond just you and I talking, like even
Ashe.
beyond everyone listening. So I hope that it's it continues to transcend time, and that we continue to be great people and someday great ancestors. So
Ashe, yes. The love of my ancestors makes me so excited to be an ancestor one day. So I receive everything that you're saying, and I absolutely magnify it as well.
Yes.
Man,
Yeah.
there's so much blessings to be found in self-love. There's so much blessings to be found in being in community with other people.
Yes.
I too hope that one day descendants see this, hear this, and know that they were loved and they were thought about and that we fought for them. I know that our ancestors fought for us because I'm here today.
Yes.
That's how I know.
Yes. Yes.
So
nothing to add to that. Facts.
Okay. Now y'all done heard Aliya. I know y'all felt Aliya. How can you pay her? How can you be in space with her? I know you're dying to know. Aliya.
Yes. I'm so grateful to be here and to be connected with your healing audience and the Hot Girls Healing podcast. So thank you all for tuning in and for having me as a guest, Salenna. You can find me at aliyacheyenne.com. If you're interested in working with me, I provide project management, program management, and communications support to nonprofits, small businesses, and beyond. You can also check out the Prolific Hub podcast wherever you get your podcast, wherever you're listening right now. You can find the show. So thank you so much for having me. This was beautiful.
Yes, and know that you'll find me on an episode over there.
Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yes, so I'm leaving this episode full, y'all. Because look, belly full, heart full, spirit full.
Yeah.
I hope that you are as well. Aliya, thank you again so much for all the wisdom and analysis that you shared today, the love that you shared for community. Any agency, person, being in alignment with you is very lucky. So thank you so much for sharing space with me. And to my beautiful healing community, y'all know how I feel about you. I'm going to see you next time, okay? And be well until then. I'm Salenna, and this has been another episode of the Hot Girls Healing Podcast. Bye.
Bye.
Since I know you're tired, since I know you're stressed, you were always favored and you were always blessed. It's all about that. Hot girls healing. We doing it our way. Hot girls healing. We better day by day. Hot girls healing. We doing it our way. Hot girls healing. And it goes on.